Like, you have just unlocked this door to like be your true authentic self and like discover all of these things about yourself that aren't this like selfish, self-centered. You don't have to keep hitting your head against the wall like praying away these character defects. There's so much more for you, and that is what I want people to know, because it is exciting. Like, if you're only going up from here. Like, the more you learn, the more you just want to tell everyone, or at least apparently we do. You want to tell everyone. So, and yeah, I'll never stop. I'll never stop.
Hello, welcome to the Sobriety Bestie podcast. My name is Kirsten, and I'm so excited you are here today for a very special episode where we have Burn the Stigma on to come talk about all the deconstructing from AA and 12-step things. So, Tear Bear, Burn the Stigma, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here, and thank you. I just had Kirsten on yesterday. I'm super excited to be here, especially after getting to know you more yesterday, and like, I think we vibe, so.
Totally, vibes. Vibing.
Yeah.
Let's just start off with like when you left 12-step, and then what was that like for you?
So when I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like my final exit was like, I kind of had like fallen back a little bit, and then my one of my besties it was when I was still in Texas, and we were going to a meeting basically to say bye to everyone, but we had fallen together. We had fallen kind of back from it. And so it wasn't a big, like, it was a big thing. Like, at first, everyone obviously assumed that, something was going on, and no one really wanted to like associate with us, as like they kind of faked it a little bit, like more so than other groups, because I'd been through a few home groups throughout my life in different states. So the final one in Dallas really wasn't the worst. It was a different group when I was in the New Hampshire and Vermont scene, that it was just like they treated me like complete shit, like that they were gonna catch something, that like they were just super, super shameful. Maybe it's like a southern thing, in the South they're more like bless their hearts type of, like
We'll pray
yeah,
for you.
like more that type of vibe. But yeah, so then it was just, I did have a bout with drinking because I was a IV heroin user. Like, that was my drug of choice. That's what took me through all the things. And then once I left AA is when I had my drinking thing, because I didn't have the early 20s bar scene. Like, on my 21st birthday, I was sniffing OCs. I didn't even have a drink on my 21st birthday. Like, I had like the drinking fun when you're in high school, but like I never did the bar scene. So when I was like 28, 29, I did the bar scene. And I had a lot of fun. And the thing about that is that you can drink like, alcohol is so different, because you can drink insane amounts, get super we can swear here, get super fucked up, and like everyone else is too, and it's like it's not really a thing, like when you're around a whole bunch of people. Like with heroin, it's more of like, you don't really like have a heroin party, right? Like, it's totally different. And that was an experience, but I never went back to meetings after that. But it was one of those things, having a belly full of alcohol and a head full of AA. I still definitely believed in it, even though I knew it wasn't for me. I knew that it wasn't something that I could really do. And I believed in it, though. Like, I knew it didn't work for me, but I knew it worked for everybody else. It was just that there's something really, really wrong with me, that I can't make it work. And I could never figure out what it was, I truly thought that that was the path for everybody, because especially when you're going in and out of treatment. Like, I was going in and out of treatment, for nearly a decade. So it was like, everybody around me that I knew, that's what they did, because that's what they told us to do. So, when you keep up with people on, Facebook, you see people, still going to meetings, still doing that. Then you hear about the people that stopped going to meetings and they fell off. Like, but all the people that you know that are sober are still going to meetings. So it seems like it works for everybody. You know, like I had no reason to think that it didn't. Then just society, that's what they tell you to do. Even when you're just a kid, you know, people that drink go to those meetings. Like you see it in a show, you see, like it's everywhere. The very final time I left wasn't the worst, but I had some pretty brutal ones when I was in New Hampshire and Vermont. Well, the first time I left Dallas, because there was a couple times I was in Dallas. There was a first one that was pretty bad too. But yeah, I did a whole lot of getting really involved in different groups when I would be in sober living and like in stuff like that. And then I would start using again, and it would always be like the balls to the wall. Like once I started going to inpatient treatment and learning about 12-step, all of the times that I returned to use was just like hardcore, like fuck everything, because I think it was like part of that whole like abstinence violation effect, you know. But I think a lot of it too was like that's what they told me was going to happen, so I made sure that it happened, you know. Like I would love to know, if I didn't believe that once I put a substance in me that I lost all control, what would it have been different? Maybe not, you know, who knows? Maybe that's just how I was back then. But it's crazy to think how much of that was the power of the mind, you know, how much of that revolving door was because that's what I was literally programmed to do. And then when you read things like majority of people who get diagnosed with a chaotic substance use disorder grow out of it by 35, it's like, and then I think about how many young people I saw in those rooms and how many people would have just aged out of it, and how many people did get programmed to believe they have this lifelong progressive disease. Like, yeah, it's fucked up, dude. It's really fucked up. Like when you sit back and think about it, like how many of those people died because they were programmed to think that way. And then whether they just ended up, you know, just being a whole self-fulfilled prophecy, or they ended up, you know, taking their own life because they're like, I can't do this anymore. Like, because we all know people that it's sick how common it is. You know, we were talking about it yesterday. Like, it's just so common to know people who have taken their own lives, and then we blame it on the disease, you know? And then even you'll hear people who took their own lives, and then the, you know, word about the toxicology comes back and there was actually nothing in their system, and you hear people say, well, at least they died sober. Like, what? You know? So
I think the worst line I ever heard in AA is, some have to die so others can live. Right now that's coming into my head. I'm like, oh, that's probably the worst.
Yeah. Or just like the straight up blame. Like, we know you hear someone pass, they're like, they just couldn't. They just kept taking their will back. They just couldn't get it. It's a simple program. Let this be when they make you the lesson, you know, when they make you the lesson, that's pretty gross too. But that is basically what that saying is, you know, like, but they are the lesson.
Well, if you worked it, it would have worked.
Right.
It's not us, it's you.
Yeah. Like, it works if you work it. So, yeah.
So what year would you say you left 12-step, just so I understand in my head?
So I believe it's like 2014, 2015, right in there.
Okay.
Right in there.
And then your drinking was actually after you left 12-step?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I love that. So you had this whole AA experience, and then so you weren't really drinking before, you were drugging,
yes.
And then you did AA, and then you left AA, and then you started drinking.
Yeah. And looking back at it, that was almost like, I guess, kind of like harm reduction, you know, because I was using a safe, regulated substance that, yeah, I mean, technically it could still kill me, but like much more predictable. It's a labeled substance. Like, I know exactly what I'm getting every single time. It's not going to change. So it was, and again, it's so normal though. Like, that's what's so crazy is when I think about how many people that I was getting drunk with that were like normal, like they were, you know, like, or maybe they weren't, I don't know, but I think they were. Like, it's so normal for people to get smashed on alcohol and like nobody thinks anything about it. But when people do drugs, it's like, but it's so normalized to get smashed on alcohol that people who don't, well, I guess they do kind of use it chaotically, but where it's not so chaotic that it completely takes over their life, like they're able to do it, like, and nobody bats an eye. Like, it's just like, that's just
They bat
Friday
the
night.
eye when you say you don't drink.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's weird when you don't. It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
About what point would you say, and humor me with years, if you will, I'm so analytical and it helps give me a timeline in my head. About what year was it that you realized that AA was harmful and that you wanted to deconstruct?
Like, towards the end, I started to see, when you start to see the effect it's having on people, like, the longer that you're around, and you're starting to see, like, all right, like, but you still see the people that have stayed with it. So you're like, well, it does work if you work it, like, quite literally, that's what you think, right? But I'd say towards the end, when I was in that last Dallas place, and kind of the attitude, because more people were getting on Suboxone, and the attitude, I was in DAA, and DAA uses the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We use the same exact text, but we just, when we're reading out loud, like when we're doing big book studies, we just say the word drugs when they use alcohol, and we say like using when they say drinking. Because we believe that is like the first original, book. So that's the right program, blah, blah. NA is not the original.
Sacred text.
Yeah.
It's the
This is
text.
the one. Yeah.
Channeled from God.
Yeah, so
not stolen from the cult religion Oxford group.
No, not at all. So I would say I started to see how, like, it was just so open and shut. Like, they were just so cruel to people, to where, like, I remember hearing people say that, like, they wouldn't, tell people, like, to get serious when you're serious about your recovery, because then they would say they're on, Suboxone. People would say, well, when you're ready to get serious. And then I started saying that. I would say that, women would come to me and I'd be like, when you're ready to get serious about your recovery and you get off that shit, give me a call and I'll be happy to take you through the book. And like that's a part why I'm here too. A lot of it's the treatment, but a lot of it is who I was when I was in that program, because it did make me kind of like, I was kind of snobby, I guess is the word, like a big book snob sometimes.
Yeah, you were indoctrinated.
Yeah, like thinking that I'm, those like we're talking about AA light, the people that, those meeting makers, like they don't know, like,
or two-steppers, right? What is it, a two-step? It's you're not drinking and you're going to meetings.
Yeah.
Isn't that what it was? They called them two-steppers? I'm having like a memory.
Yeah, that totally.
The two-steppers.
Like, like, those poor, like,
slippery slopes.
Yeah, like
they're the outside of the herd.
Yeah, like you feel bad for them and you want to bring them and you want to drop
with the
knowledge.
winners.
Yes, like all of that. And it was just I think it was such a place of like acceptance too, like to be like that. Especially, in my early 20s, it was after, being in school, and like I was diagnosed with ADHD in 7th grade, and that was the 90s, and like girls weren't getting diagnosed. So, I was fucked up, right? So, and I didn't have any real help, like at school, I had like untimed testing and my IEPs, but that was it. That was, like nobody explained anything. Definitely nobody explained like all the emotional stuff that comes with it. So I just think I'm like just an emotional being, which I am super emotional, but this was like, like the rage and like some of like the things that I would get so mad and frustrated over. And like when I sucked at everything and I would never give anything. Like I never wanted to try. I just wanted to be good, because like I just always, like the self-esteem was it's always been like real low. And the being like, when I first started drinking and smoking weed, it was finally something I could be good at. And then I think that carried over into meetings. It was like, I can be good at this even if I'm not really feeling the things, like even though I still want to get high really bad, like if I just talk this talk, like I'm gonna be accepted. Like people are asking me to be their sponsor. Like I have sponsees, like I have a whole back seat and a front seat of sponsees one day driving up to a meeting, like taking them to like go carry the message out of detox, because I'm just so spiritual, like
Totally.
the acceptance that came from that. I loved it. I really, really loved it. Even though the program itself, like I'm like, just fake it till you make it, bitch. Like we're just going to fake it till we make it. And I never made it.
Keep coming back.
Yeah.
Keep coming back.
You know?
Don't quit before the miracle.
And like that, when you think about how crazy it is that you know something is not working for you, but you're willing to carry this message. I still say this language sometimes. Like, you're still willing to talk about it, and you still are willing to suggest it to everybody. Like I was
Proselytize.
yeah,
recruit.
like this, like it's because you think it's gonna work for them. You know, because you think there's something wrong with you, because this program works for everyone who's willing to get honest. If you are willing to get honest, then this program will work for you.
It's kind of like an MLM I'm suddenly seeing where it's like the MLM only works for you if you convince them it works for them.
Yeah.
And then Bill had the 12 steps be that you can't keep it unless you give it away.
Yes.
So the MLM only works if you convince somebody else that it works. Then it works for you. Then they have to convince somebody else that it works, and it works for them.
Yes.
I mean, I had a different experience with AA than you.
Right.
I loved it, and I felt like I wasn't drinking, like, so I have a different experience with it. I just realized it was all not true. And I was like, wait, I got bullshitted for a decade and I bullshitted others.
Yeah.
And it's still happening. Like, this is bananas. This is not okay.
Yeah. When you like step back and think about the power that it has, and how badly you can want something that doesn't exist, is kind of like super disturbing. When I think of like how bad I yearned for this thing to work, and like truly thought that this was going to be the solution. This is the answer to everything in my life, because they label everything you have going on. Like I'm so unorganized. Like my executive dysfunction is like I'm just a wackadoodle, like, for lack of a better word. And that always went back to my, because that's my spiritual malady. That's because, I'm selfish. I'm late because I'm selfish. I lost my step work because I'm selfish. I'm not putting my, I'm not taking my recovery serious. I'm not doing, the step work on time the way that I'm supposed to do it because I don't care. All of these things, and just like other things in your life that you're never dealing with. Like, you're never getting to work on any of it because you're so busy trying to pray away these character defects that aren't really character defects. And it's like, I spent so much time writing step work, so much 10 steps, so much 10, 11, and 12, so much getting outside of myself and going to help somebody else. But then when I would lay my head down at night, yeah, you're right. I didn't think about my problems when I was helping someone. You're right. I didn't. But when I went home, when I put my head on my little sober house bed, all of those thoughts, all of those feelings came back. And it's like you're just constantly, it's almost like just a drug replacement, right? It's like I'm using the service work to feel better about myself, but then I still have my problems because I'm not dealing with my problems. Like, it's the same thing, but just without drugs, it's like, and then everyone just expects the more days that rack up, like the better that you're getting, but you're actually getting worse because you're supposed to be getting better and you're not feeling better, and everyone's expecting you to be better, and it's just like, ew. It's so crazy. It's so crazy when you think about it, because there's all sorts of avenues of getting involved in the program, right? Like, people can just go to meetings, but I think there's a whole nother level when you are part of like a treatment community too. Like, when you're like part of, like, you want to make the people in the treatment center proud too, and you want to make these people proud. Like, there's so many more people that you want the approval from, and then when you just go to regular meetings and you're not part of a whole treatment community, like, the more that you get involved in just being a part of it, like, it's a different level than if you just show up to meetings. Like, if you're just going to meetings and then leaving is a completely different experience than being like 2 feet in, making coffee, taking people to meetings, carrying the message. Like, there's so many degrees of being involved. They can all fuck you up. They can all, like, it can all mess you up. But I think there's just so many different levels of the trauma, like the literal 12-step trauma that people can experience. Like, it's on such different levels.
So it sounds like you were in AA, 12-step, in and out of rehabs and treatment centers, sober living houses, and 12-step programs, AA or DAA or
Yeah,
what?
DAA, HACA, because those anything that would use the big book of AA, because the first like inpatient rehab that I went to was like a 12-step like big book crazy place. And so I was convinced that it's all in that book. So like Heroin Addicts Anonymous, Cocaine Addicts Anonymous, Drug Addicts Anonymous. I would even go to some AA meetings because it was about the book, right? It's not about the substance, it's about the spiritual malady. Like my issue is not
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, because they're selling you on the cult religion.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you were in 12-step and recovery world for about 10 years.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And then you left, and then you drank after that. How did you realize that deconstructing AA was a thing and that you wanted to start getting the harmful beliefs and ideology out of your head? Did you know that when you were in it and actively start doing that work? And because I know you said something yesterday about you have this little bingo thing on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I want you to talk about that later. But how did you start to recognize that all these beliefs were baloney? I guess the question is, when did you realize that you had to do some work or you wanted to do some work to get the 12-step baloney out of your head?
Do you know what's crazy? Not until I started speaking out. I thought that I was speaking out about there's more than one way to recover. I still believed that 12 step was the like because I got first into the cannabis community, right? And on social media. And like I told you before, when I like didn't realize all these different communities existed. You know, there's literally a community for everything. And so I got really involved in like the cannabis community at first, and they are who let me know like you're in recovery, because I would say, "Oh, I'm not in recovery," you know, like, and they were like, "No, you are in recovery." But I still had, you know, the idea that most people get sober through the program. It does work if you're really willing to work it. It will work for you. Like, but I also believed that you didn't have to do it that way, you know, because I was seeing it in myself. You know, I'm like, yeah, I smoke a lot of weed, but like my life is great. You know, like I never thought, like I never imagined, because my husband and I used to use together. We got arrested together. Like we have like, you know, I mean, we're not rich or anything, but we have a life that we used to pray for when we were living in the car, you know? So it's like, I knew that life existed beyond meetings and it didn't have to be chaotic drug use. So that was my message at first. And then I like met people like this girl, Amanda. She doesn't really make content anymore because she just gets sick of all the fake people on social media. But because she's just a badass bitch. And I won this book. It's called Coming to Harm Reduction, Kicking and Screaming, Looking for Harm Reduction in a 12-Step World. And she would do like harm reduction book giveaways, right? And then like, so I knew,
I love that.
Yeah. So like I knew about harm reduction. I was an advocate of harm reduction, but I knew like surface level harm reduction stuff, right? And then I knew that you could recover multiple ways. There was multiple ways to recover. But it wasn't until I really started reading that I was like, holy shit, you know? And then I just like, I don't read, but like I started reading, and like it was finally a subject that I cared about, and like I got really into it, and you know, I saved a million links. I got a million notebooks because of all the topics and things I wanted to talk about, right? Like so many things. And because you become obsessed, like, or at least I did, I became obsessed, you know? And then it's like, you find all this stuff. Then this book too, US of AA, How the 12 Steps Hijacked the Science of Alcoholism. This book took me like to the moon, you know, of just like finding out like all this stuff. And then, yeah, then I haven't shut up since.
I love that.
Yeah. It's just.
And that was like 5 years ago,
Yeah.
like 2019. Okay. Or 2020?
I'd say I'd say probably I started talking like 5 years ago, and I'd say was probably like 4.5 years ago. Like 4.5,
Okay.
like 4.5 to 4 years ago was like what, but I was talking about like multiple pathways and like harm reduction, but I really
Yeah.
wasn't getting into like the real shit, like the real deprogram, because there's a difference, you know, there's a difference between
Yeah.
being like, yeah, like AA is still a valid pathway. Like now I really feel like, yes, I'm for anyone who it works for, like I'm happy it works for you, but I think it's dangerous as all hell. Like I think that it is dangerous that that program exists on any level whatsoever. That's nothing against the people that it works for. Like if it works for you, I'm happy for you. But that, I mean, two things can be true. I can be happy that you found something that works for you, but still think that and be terrified that it exists, because I see how much effect it has on just how anybody perceives anybody with any sort of substance use disorder whatsoever, or just even people who use recreational drugs. Like it has had so much influence, and it's dangerous because it's filled with so much misinformation. Like it's faith. It's a faith-based program that has, like that book says, has hijacked the science, the literal, like real shit, factual facts. It has hijacked that, like taken that away to where doctors are spitting dogma. Doctors are spitting dogma like it's they learned it in
Yeah.
medical school.
Smoke your camels, doctor recommended, and go to AA. Go to a religious conversion 1930s cult for your sobriety that has nothing to do with alcohol addiction and everything to do with cult religions.
It's crazy. There was a doctor on LinkedIn, right? This week, he said something like about not calling AA an abstinence only program, because it's not abstinence only. It's like that's like the goal or whatever. But and he said because people go in there and like they're still using, like they're still working through it. And then I wrote back and I'm like, no, it's abstinence only, because if you're only treated well when you're abstinent, then it's an abstinence only program. Because he was saying something about people who refer people, that they should be careful in their phrasing, because like it might prevent someone from going. This is a doctor, okay? And it's like, no, the people that are recommending things shouldn't ever make somebody believe that they can be using and show up to that environment. You may have your first meeting or two, they may be a little tolerant with you, right?
Yeah.
But if you start working that program and then you start using, if you think that's a safe environment for you where you're going to be treated with love and support, that is very rare. That is so rare that I don't even think it exists. Like,
Yeah, I think it is really rare. It reminds me, I had a sponsee once in Bali who I met her when she was drunk. She came to a meeting at a friend's house who just had a baby, or at a sober member's house, right? We would get bringing a meeting to her house basically. And there was a woman there who was drunk, and I was like, oh, perfect, right? New recruit, freshie, new recruit. No, but I prayed to my higher power for 3 days for a sponsee, and she appeared.
Oh.
No, it's actually quite magical because she's one of my current best friends.
Oh, that's awesome.
I officiated her wedding.
Oh.
Like, yeah, we're super good friends now.
So you didn't
And
just
we
dogma
see-
dump and run.
No, but I met her when she was drunk at a meeting basically, and she couldn't not drink in the morning. And I get that because I was a morning drinker. And I said, fine, fair enough. What if you do this? What if you just try to don't drink for the first 30 minutes of the day? Definitely drink, but come to the morning meeting still. I'll see you at the morning meeting. That's fine. But just try to do 30 minutes you don't drink. Like put a little bit of time there so that you have to. And my thought was because then she can start to be with her emotional discomfort a little bit and start to gain skills by how do I not drink for a half an hour? Just get a half an hour of not drinking instead of waking up and drinking first, right? And so, yeah, I worked with her on that, but I don't think that it's very common. I know that when people have been drunk in meetings, they've been kicked out of meetings or
Right.
told they can't talk or whatever. In general, yeah, it's not, I would say, well tolerated.
Yeah.
But I think there's always exceptions to
Right.
everything. There isn't
Totally.
truly like it's all one way. And some groups, as you've said, are like more culty than others. It's a
Yes.
spectrum, a cult spectrum.
Yes.
How much coercive control is in your group.
Totally.
And then also it's luck. It's like Russian roulette. You don't know what kind of sponsor you're going to get or what kind of
100%.
group you're going to get or how
100%.
you're told the program is. And some of us get told some pretty messed up things by some pretty well-meaning people.
Right. I mean that is a thing right there. The well-meaning thing is like even in just recovery culture, like social media, recovery culture, there are so many well-meaning people who are stigmatizing the hell out of the very people that they say they're advocating for. And they're doing it with all love. They're not doing it from a malicious place, right? There are some people who do things just for views and clicks and like will say things just to get the clicks and views. But majority of people who make recovery content are 100% coming from a good place of wanting to share their experience, strength, and hope, right? And they end up spreading a whole lot of misinformation, dogma, and 12-step rhetoric, even if they're not 12-step members. Like that is the other thing, is that you never have to, this is what I always say to these 12-steppers that get in my comments. I'm like, but you never have to step foot into a meeting to have the dogma in your brain. Not once. You never have to enter that space at all.
Yeah, it was in my head before I got to, I was already indoctrinated by the culture before I ever got to AA, because I saw it in movies and on TV shows and on the news and all that. I think most of us know that Alcoholics Anonymous is the solution to alcoholism or heavy drinking or however we look at it, you know? I mean, it's not true, but that's the cultural indoctrination that's been going on for 90 years now.
Yeah.
Okay, so you started talking about 12-step stuff on the internet, saying there's other options. And then into that journey, you realized, oh, wait a minute. It's actually a lot more harmful than I thought.
Yeah.
Which is so similar to my journey. Like I left AA in 2020 and then deconstructed like the first year out. And then I thought I was free. And then when I 5 years later decided to talk about it, I thought I was good and done with my deconstruction. And I was just talking about it because I feel really a lot of empathy for that position, having left AA and feeling totally mind-fucked and wanting to get free. And not a lot of people, if anybody that you find, will actually validate what you're going through and point to how they work through that or the fact that it even exists. And so I started speaking thinking I was, I don't know, like wanting to help people genuinely just out of like care, right? But as I was speaking about it, I was like, oh, whoa. Because then, like you said, I got to read all these books and do research to make content. And I was like, oh, wow, I still have a lot of deconstructing myself. Oh, wow. And the more that I do the work, meaning study cults, study Alcoholics Anonymous, especially the history, the more that I realize how harmful it is. And I would never, ever recommend going unless your gut tells you to go. If your gut tells you to go, nothing else matters. Trust yourself over anything. But I would never recommend it now. And I had so much more of it in my head. And that makes me think, it humbles me because it makes me think I still have a lot of it in my head and I want to get it the F out.
Yes.
So I'm happy to be on this deconstructing journey. I'm still on it 5 years after leaving.
Yeah. It's reoccurring. I think like it comes in like waves, you know, like the whole journey. And I think sometimes even like I'll read something that I already read, but then I read it now with more experience and it hits me even deeper. So I don't know how long this takes. You know?
Yeah. I've heard some people say cult recovery takes about 10 years. And obviously there's no rule for anything. And everybody's different. Everybody was indoctrinated at different levels. Everybody's coming from different genetics, different drinking levels, different childhood traumas, different levels of being resolved on emotional wounds and whatever. Like we all were in there differently. And some people are also deconstructing a religion they grew up in plus 12-step. So they're doing a double deconstruction. They're doing Christianity or Mormonism or whatever, and also AA. So they're double winner. Is that what they said? If you're an Al-Anon and an alcoholic, you're a double winner. I heard somebody say an Al-Anonic once. I was like, I can't with the Al-Anonic.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what has been, I guess, the most surprising or the most liberating, or what was like one of your biggest epiphanies?
When I realized how many of us there were is what just really put the power behind my voice, is what really like got me to be like, nope, I'm like, there's nothing that anybody's ever going to say to me to get me to stop talking about this. And when I realized how many of us, like we're not just like, 50, like it's the overwhelming majority of people don't find recovery in the rooms, right? And then when you think about how many people don't, and then when you think about how many people are stuck in there because they think that they don't have a choice is like crazy. And then when you think about how like stuff that I said to people that probably did manipulate them to stay in there even if they didn't want to, while I'm at the same time like knowing that it's not working for me but convinced it's going to work for everybody else. And then it's that whole, I think knowing how many people there were was like super amazing. And then knowing, like learning that the disease model is not true, or at least from what I can gather is not true. It's very liberating and very like the freedom of that. Cause I always was kind of like, what if? Like I always felt good, like my husband and I, like when he got out of prison, we used like a few times, trying to dodge his UAs from his PO. And then he had 2 dirty UAs and his guy was like, if you have another one, you're going to go back. And we just were like, all right, like we're not going to fuck around anymore. We're done. And
is UA urine analysis?
Yes, yeah.
And PO's parole officer?
Yeah, well, he was on probation after he had probation after he got
officer.
out. Yeah,
okay.
But PO can be.
And earlier you said OCs. Is OCs over the counters?
Oxycontin.
Oxycontin.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know any of the lingo, and I don't know if the people listening.
No, you're
do as
right.
well,
Yeah,
but I want to understand.
Yeah, no, sorry. I know. I shouldn't just assume everybody knows. But yeah, it was like we were done. And I always felt like I was done, and it just felt like even like the drugs just had changed. Like the vibe was just different. It wasn't the same. Like it was just, we were just done, And I always felt that, but then I was like, oh, but I have this disease. And I was even saying on social media, like you can definitely, oh, I almost knocked my coffee over. You can probably find an old clip somewhere of me on the internet where it's talking about it being a disease. So I still believed it was a disease when I very first got on the internet talking about being able to smoke weed, which is crazy because it's like, how can I be sitting there thinking it's a disease, but like openly talking about cannabis as a recovery path and blah, 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 which by the way, I don't identify as in recovery anymore. I feel like I've recovered, moved on. That was a part of my life. Yeah. It was a chapter of my life. But for a while I did identify as in recovery, like you said, like we're in recovery from recovery, but I'm not in, like, there's nothing about like drugs that, like, it's not a thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not a thing for me anymore. And that used to be so scary to say. Like, I can't be too confident because some people are going to be like, oh, that's when it gets you, like, blah, blah. But now it's just like being able to say that. Being able to say, like, I'm okay. I'm not going to use heroin again. Like, I'm not going to go use illicit fentanyl again. Like, I'm not going to do that. I can say that with 100% certainty that I'm not going to do that. And that, to some people, even hearing that, like, oh, you shouldn't say that, because we're not supposed to say that. But being in a place of learning and unlearning the things to feel good enough to be able to say that, there's a certain freedom that comes with that I can't explain, when you've been told for so long that, like, you're always just one really bad day from going back. Like, you just can't ever be too sure. You can't ever be too confident. You just always got to watch out because your disease is doing push-ups. It's waiting for you. It's waiting for you to have that bad day, and it's going to get, what a shitty way to live. No wonder I kept going back.
Did you check the parking lot?
They might be there, but I'm just going to wave, because it's just, I'm done. And like the freedom that comes with that, when you were programmed for so long to believe that you were always, it's like living in defense. When you're in the, it's like, it's,
survival mode.
Yeah. It's like, because you only have that daily reprieve, right? Like, that's contingent on your spiritual connection or whatever. It's like, like one day I get 24 hours. I've been doing this work for how long? And I only get 24 hours? Like, what the hell?
And the person who's the most sober here is the one who woke up the earliest. Did you ever hear that?
Now that you say that, I feel like I've heard that. Yeah. No. Oh, God, no. Yeah.
It's so not true because our brains literally change. My brain at 30 days sober is different than at 1 day sober, is different at 1 year sober. And now I'm 15 years. I haven't had a drink since 2009. So my brain today is way different than my brain at 1 year sober. So no, I'm not at the same risk today.
Right.
To me, recovery is real. There's a period of time for recovery, whether we're talking about alcohol addiction or a broken leg. And at a certain point in time, you move on with your life. Like with me, like, okay, you break your leg, you're in a cast, you get a scan, whatever, and at a certain point in time, you get the cast off, you might have a crutches or a wobble, and then you might always have a vulnerability. Like maybe you're never going to be an Olympic athlete because you had a broken leg and you have a little bit of a whatever, right? So there's a vulnerability, but it doesn't mean that you're in recovery.
Right.
Like I think that I probably have a vulnerability to alcohol addiction still because I haven't, now that I've learned about Sinclair method, I haven't actually like unresolved that path by comparing alcohol and naltrexone, which like makes what they call the unlearning effect in your brain. So if I had gotten sober through naltrexone, which is what I would tell my former self to do, then I would think that, yeah, I have the brain of totally fine. But there's nothing in me that wants to drink. I'm not at risk for blowing up my life through alcohol. It's so over.
Yeah.
There might be a pathway there still in my brain, and that would be the vulnerability. But I know that I could remove that pathway if I drink with naltrexone, because that's what the science shows for 78 to 90% of the people.
Yeah.
But I have no interest in drinking with naltrexone, drinking without it, taking a trip, not taking a trip, all those. I'm just not interested. It's not a problem.
Right.
And if I become interested, then I'll figure it out then, because future Kirsten's always different than present Kirsten.
Right.
Because I never thought I was going to get sober, go to AA, leave AA, talk about AA. Future Kirsten's always, different than present Kirsten. So if future Kirsten decides to drink, there's going to be a damn good reason why she decides that. And it might be because she found a safe way to do it, or the science changed, or whatever. But that's not what's happening.
Right. Right. No, and
that's how I look at it.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too is like, if it was to happen, like obviously with drugs and especially the illicit supply the way it is today, it's a whole different story, because you're just greatly increasing the risk with having no tolerance whatsoever. But it's like, if someone was to drink, like it's not going to set off the phenomena of craving. Like your allergy isn't going to set off, and you're not going to be like, you still have a choice, right? You don't lose the power of choice. Like if anyone does end up picking up, like we know now that we do still have a choice. Like you can choose what happens next, and you can choose, am I going to let this take me back, or am I going to stop now? Like you do have that choice. And I think programming people to believe that once it goes in, that choice has gone out the window is the worst thing that we can do. The best thing that we can do, okay, people mess up. I don't want to call it mess up. People, sometimes they pick up. Sometimes that happens. Okay, like, yeah, maybe it does. Like, are you disappointed? Probably. Usually, like, if you're trying not to do something and you do it, even when I eat ice cream, when I'm trying not to, I feel disappointed, right? Like, it's a choice, but it's all the stigma. Like we've made, oh my God, it's drugs. Oh my God, it's, okay, like you've made that choice. You did it. You don't have to do it again. You don't have to do it again. Like it's a bump in the road, dust yourself off, try to figure out like, how did I even get here, and keep it going. Like, don't let them tell you, because you have put that in you, that you don't have a choice anymore, because yes, the fuck you do. And that's what drives me crazy about these steppers, is because they always say to me like, you just don't want to take accountability. And it's like, where's the accountability in once you put a substance in you, you have no choice? Because that sounds like a fucking cop-out to me, versus telling people that once they put that in them, it's not the end of the world, right? Like, you have a choice now. Like, what are you going to do with it? The ball's in your court. Fucking make the choice you want to make. Don't let them tell you no, that's not true. Like, and I think telling people and teaching people that they have choices is so important, but people are so scared. They just want to tell people like, nope, it's not gonna, you can't, there's no choice. Like, you don't, and it's like, that's literally like the Just Say No campaign. Like, what, it's the worst thing that we have done. I really feel like that is the worst messaging that we give people, is that they lose the power of choice once that one goes in. Because how many people has kept going because of that?
Totally. And it was so important for me when I left to figure out if I was going to drink again, because I did believe that to leave is to drink is to die. I had that phobia indoctrination living very big in my nervous system. So I had to remove that through therapy. But so part of my recovery from AA was to figure out, if I do drink again and it becomes a problem again, like just really thinking it like all, like planning it all out, then how would I get sober again if I needed to? That's not AA. So that was one of my questions to help me feel more safe and secure for leaving AA and never having to go back. So I thought about, okay, so if I do drink again, and if it becomes a problem again, I want to get sober again, these are the methods that I would try. And I found out about ketamine assisted psychotherapy. So there's really good research about how through certain therapeutic approaches, like with a trained therapist, right, and on a certain dose of ketamine, it will rewire your brain and be very helpful. Sinclair method with naltrexone's great. Or even like, I know people that go to Peru and do ayahuasca. And that's to me a little bit less, I haven't seen the science on that. I've seen the anecdotal evidence on that, right? So I started thinking through all the different ways that I would do and like, what are smart recovery meetings like? So I had to figure out like, what is my plan? Like A, B, C, D, and E, where Z is AA, right? Like if all I have is AA or die, I don't know. Maybe I would rather, I don't know. I can't say it. But for me, part of my recovery process from Alcoholics Anonymous was figuring out if I needed to get support again, what are all the ways that I can like right now research that while I have a clear head so that if that time comes, I have other plans in my mind. And there's so many other ways.
Yeah.
Including knowing that you have a choice.
Yes. Like, no, I just feel like that's so important. Like just knowing that you do have that choice. And it's funny because it's like my head, like when I hear people say, like even hearing you talk about like you plan, like I think that is what people should do. I think that is a good thing to do, would be to plan if something did happen. It's like, that is like harm reduction, right? It's not saying that something, it is going to happen, but it's planning if something does happen. But then that old like AA, like bitch that I used to be, like will come out in my head and like, it'll be like, I can like hear what the people say. Yeah, but once you're drinking, like you won't be able to make those choices. You won't be able to, take those steps and like blah, 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 blah. It's like, it's so crazy how much we have made it to like people who are under the influence of substances, like can't make a decision for themselves at all. Like we've just made them like these just helpless, like once they're there, like they're just so helpless and like they can't make a choice. And honestly, like a lot of times it probably looked like that on the outside, that I couldn't make a choice to save my life. And I did keep making really bad decisions. But I've even talked about, like part of my AA story used to be about this time that I was driving to meet my dope dealer, right? And I'm like, I don't want to do this, like crying, like I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. And that was me that was my example of my losing my power of choice. And then, getting it and like drawing it up and like literally crying that I don't want to. But if I really get honest with myself, I still made the choice to drive there. Like, yes, I was fueled by the being dope sick, right? Like, who doesn't want to get well? But I still made that choice. Like I wasn't a mindless being, just like drugs, I need drugs, like it was a decision that I made. Like I made the decision that I wanted to get well that day, what most people would. It's not like, but like, let's just be, I feel like sometimes I sound like mean when I say it, like because so many of us identify with this version of ourselves, right? That I didn't have a choice, that I was driven by the drugs. And like I was driven by the drugs, like the drugs were first and foremost, but I was still making choices while under the influence of drugs, which obviously aren't going to be the same choices that I make when I'm not under the influence of drugs. But I think we need to start giving people like their power back a little bit, and like, because we're not helping them by making them believe that they don't have it. And it's so different to look at your life through like, you have like your AA story, right? Of like you following the allergy model. I was always different, blah, 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 blah. And then you like look back, and I still do it. Like I think of different things in my life. And, I have like the version that I used to say, and then like I try to look at it for like, what was that really, and that example of me driving to yes, I was dope sick. I felt like shit. Like, of course I wanted to go get high. But if I'm being real with myself, I made that decision to get in the car and drive there. And yes, I was saying I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore, because I didn't. but I still made the choice to do it. And like, I didn't have to drive. I could have driven a detox. I could have, you know what I mean? Like, I could have made a different choice, and I didn't. And that's normal. That's not saying like I did something bad. That normal people under those circumstances would make that choice. But like I said, I just feel like it's really important for us to just talk about things for like what they are, and not this fairy tale painting. And like, I do think, like in the beginning, some of the disease model stuff did help people kind of see people as sick people and not just like these demon people. But in the end, it's completely screwed everything up,
Yeah, I always heard, I'm not bad getting good. I'm sick getting well.
Yeah.
I'm sick.
Yeah.
That's my disease.
Yeah.
Like, it's my alcoholic thinking.
Yeah.
But it's also a scapegoat for everything for not taking any personal responsibility. Exactly. And when I hear you explaining that, it makes me think of like the end of my drinking, where I wasn't dope sick, right? But I was alcohol sick, meaning that when I would drink, because I had all these anxiety disorders, but really it was all related also to, well, my unresolved trauma and my neurodivergence that I didn't know about, but also to my withdrawal of alcohol.
Yeah.
Or if I forgot to take my benzo the night before, which I did sometimes when I was really drunk, I was having benzo withdrawal but didn't know it. So I would wake up with full-blown anxiety attacks. So when I was choosing to drink in the morning, I was choosing to not have an anxiety attack. I wasn't choosing to drink in the morning. I was sick and getting medicine. So I understand in that sense when you talk about driving and you could have made a different choice. Now, if I had heard about, and in 2009, this is before Instagram, this is, what we were on Friendster and MySpace or whatever, some early days Facebook without the feed, right? So people were not open. The stigma was very big in 2009 still for alcohol addiction. People were not talking about alcohol addiction. And I thought everybody who was an alcoholic was an old man under a bridge with a paper bag. There was no like, sober is sexy, like this whole Instagram campaign. Like, I was like, sober is sexy. Like, that was when I was 5 years sober. I'm like, that's what the message is now? Like, but so way back when I couldn't deal with that level of anxiety, if there was somebody saying what you're saying right now, you can make a choice, you can choose something different, you can go to a detox. Here's steps that you can do when you wake up so fucking hungover that you have hangxiety. Is your anxiety so bad this morning that you want to drink? You have a choice. Here are 3 things you can do right now. Here's a breathing technique that I learned from this guru or whatever, this thing on YouTube. Here's a thing that I can read sometimes that helps me. I do this, I lay on grass and it helps me. If that doesn't work, fine, fuck it, go have your drink or whatever. But you can choose. Like, if there was messaging around other things to do when I was in that sick needing my alcohol, like, because waking up when I'm looking at the ceiling and I'm like, oh my God, and I'm just panicking first thing in the morning, all I'm thinking is alcohol's going to make this go away.
Of course.
So it's not that I don't have a choice. It's that my options aren't good at that point.
They're very
what are
limited.
The other options? Right. I'm in panic. I'm literally in survival mode. My body feels like it's dying. And I know the one thing that's going to make that stop.
Yeah.
But a voice like yours saying that you can choose different, here are things that you can choose different, here are ways out of it, instead of you're just screwed and you need a cult religion, you're powerless. Right. No, you have power. Do you want to do this instead? Like, how do you want to navigate this?
Yeah.
I don't know. I appreciate what you're saying, because I didn't hear that when I was in it. I was in a shame ball and didn't talk about any of it.
We didn't. And like, that's what harm reduction like taught me. Learning about harm reduction is what really taught me about people do have choices. When people are given the choice between using clean needles or dirty needles, they choose the clean needles, right? Like, when people are given options to make safer choices, they make those safer choices. But we treat people under the influence like they can't do anything for themselves, that they can't make a decision for themselves, that, they got to give their will away because, their best decisions got them in this seat. And like, that's just people in early sobriety, right? Forget it when they're in active use. When they are in active use, we treat them like infants that just can't.
Yeah.
And like, let me tell you, like, looking back at my using was very like your stereotypical, like, just, I was a mess. Like, I was just not, like, I was everything that you think about when someone is shooting dope. Like, I would steal, I would lie, I would do all the things, right? But it's still like, if someone treated me and like gave me choices, I still could have I could have made those choices because I made choices every single day. When we are using substances, we are still making choices every single day. They may not be the best ones, but like you said, we have limited options. Like, what are we going to choose? And when we have nobody giving us anything else except you got to go to detox, you know, your only other choice is that you got to get yourself to detox. Well, I'm probably not going to choose that today, you know? But like, we treat people like there's no way that they could reduce their use or, you know, choose a safer method of administration. Like, that sounds, even in the beginning for me, sounded crazy. Like, I'm like, there's no way, like, if I was shooting dope, that I would call this hotline to like make sure that I don't overdose. But like, maybe I would now with the substance that's out there now. You know, if we start normalizing these things and say, hey, like, yeah, you see how a lot of your friends aren't here anymore? Call this friggin' number while you're getting high, and they're going to make sure that if they need to, they'll get, you know, an ambulance to you, or if you have a safe person that they can call that's going to come you know, like, there's just so many things that people can do in between complete abstinence and chaotic use. And we just always want people to make the complete abstinence choice when they may not even have to, right? Like, there's so many other things, and then people end up dying because they can't reach this squeaky clean version, you know?
Yeah, the purity bullshit.
Yeah.
That's why I'm such an advocate for the Sinclair method now that I've learned about it, which is pairing the pill naltrexone an hour or two before you're drinking every time you drink, and your brain unlearns the addiction of drinking.
Perfect.
But slowly you become neurologically less interested in alcohol over time. It could take 3 to 4 months. It's not, you could still have a bender and still get bananas, and there's still side effects, or it doesn't work for everybody, but it works for 78 to 90% of the people. I could go on and on and on about it. That to me is what we should be promoting first and foremost. It is many times more effective than cult religions or most programs, and it neurologically makes us less interested because we're not getting the endorphins from the alcohol. So we don't have to use our will even. We could try to moderate, but we don't even have to.
Right.
So I'm like, yo, bro, why did I just learn about this a month ago when I decided to read these books about it?
That's
like,
crazy.
Why is this not, and it was around in 2009 when I was getting sober. Why did I spend tens of thousands of dollars in rehab when the pill is $1 or $2 a pill? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's bananas. So let's actually, I want to ask you, because you were touching on some of the stigma. I think some of the stigma is what blocks the harm reduction. I am all about harm reduction and not purity culture. I'm sober myself, but I never wanted that to be the goal, sobriety. I was in rehab saying, I know when I'm old, I'm going to be taking ecstasy on the beach with my husband. And they're like, no, you can't. You can't ever do anything. I'm like, what? I'm like, but I'm like, I grew up in the rave. Like, I thought maybe when I'm older, I'll be going back to the rave at least a little bit. It'd be funny. So I'm not into purity culture. I haven't had a drink in 15 years, right? But that's not like what I think. I'm all about using psychedelics for healing and looking at all the different ways that we can improve ourselves from trauma and everything else. I'm curious, when you chose the handle Burn the Stigma, that was related to you speaking out about other modalities for sobriety or for harm reduction, right?
That was for my cannabis, really. That was for like, you know, like literally like light it up and smoke it type of vibe. It's so funny because I'm so much more like open-minded with my, like back then I would like smoke weed on the internet. Like I would like go live with people on Instagram and like we would like smoke weed, and like I'm sure I have some content for far down on my Burn the Stigma page. There's probably with me blowing smoke out. And it's funny now because I would never do that now, but I'm so much more like I still thought it was a disease back then, you know, like I'm so much more educated on like using substances. But I think because of like this message is so important to me, and I know that the stigma, which I go back and forth with, because even saying it out loud right now, I'm like, am I helping the stigma by not doing it, or should I be doing it to kind of, but I feel like once people see that smoke come out of your mouth, anything that follows, they're like, oh, she's just on drugs. Like, I even get that now, and I don't smoke, but I'll have like people who say shit about like me smoking weed, and like I know you're always gonna get people like whatever, but if I'm trying to put the message first, like where does and like you can still advocate for cannabis without smoking it, like on the internet, you know what I mean? Like I can still, but at the same time, it's like but why should I hide? You go back and forth because there is just so much stigma when it comes to non-abstinent
Yeah.
based life after chaotic drug use. Because I don't want to say recovery because I'm not in recovery. Like, it's not like I'm, and I think another
Right.
thing that is when people like say like, oh, like cannabis is sober, because they want to like that, but it's like, why do we, but it's not sober, right? Like, you get stoned. And why do we
Yeah, it's
care?
California sober
Yeah.
is what I've heard that
Yeah,
called.
that is
Yeah.
it. And
But
I
why
used
does
to
it
say
even,
that,
sober's
why,
not the
right?
goal.
Like, why do we, like, we're pandering to that culture still. We're still trying to fit in with them. It's like, let them keep their sober. Like, I said that like a couple years ago. Like, I was kind of fighting the whole thing. Like, it is, part of recovery and sobriety and blah 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 blah. But it's like, no, the fuck, it's not, and that's okay. Like,
Yeah.
it can still be a healing tool. It can still be part of your recovery. But don't make it something it's not. Like, who cares,
Right.
But we're so used to trying to be accepted in that culture. Like, we want to be part of the recovery culture. And it's like, let them have their shit. Like, if they want to be assholes about it, let them have it. Like, we're busy living and having fun and, not trying to be this perfect, little stepper. Like, let them have, like, don't minimize yourself and what you're doing to fit them. But it takes a while to get there, right? Because at first you think
Yeah.
the right thing to do is to advocate for it it is part of sobriety. Like, that's how you feel, right? Like, I'm speaking up and for the people who use this in recovery, and like, we are sober. Like, this is, you think that you're doing the right thing. Like, that's how I used to do it, but then you learn a little bit more and it's like, but that's still putting abstinence as the goal, kind of, like, that we want to be seen
Yeah.
as sober because that's what we, and it's like, who cares about sober? Like, let's care about healed, because how many sober people are shitbags? Like, sober doesn't really mean anything,
Yeah. Well, and the way I think about it is like, it's not a hierarchy
Yeah.
where there is ideal and better and worse and superiority.
Right.
And like, one of the things that's so funny about the people, because I know we get a lot of commenters coming at us saying bananas things. So they'll be like, I have 30 years in
Yeah.
AA. And I'm like, bro, out here, we really don't do that little flex with the status and the time
nobody
game. We
cares.
don't care
Yeah.
about your 30 years. The fact that you're being an a-hole right now is all I care about.
Right.
The fact that you're being condescending and like controlling, that's all I see. I don't see that you're 30 years in the program. I see that you're kind of being rude and I don't care. I probably won't be rude back, but I'm not impressed by your arrogance
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
Or your status game. And like, let's see who has like, so yeah, I feel like out here outside of AA ideology and deconstructing AA ideology, I've deconstructed the words recovery, I guess relapse.
Yeah.
And the way I think about the goal for me was never sobriety. Like I said, I had this fantasy of doing MDMA one day when I was like old, like,
Yeah.
and I still may, I don't know. I mean, all my dabbling was when I was really young.
Yeah.
So the goal for me is to enjoy life, to make the most out of life. Like, that's really what I think the goal is. It's like to enjoy your life. Yes. We get this one life. We don't know how long it is. We don't know when we're going to go. I quit drinking, not because I wanted to give up alcohol, because alcohol almost killed me. I was choosing life, not sobriety. So I was choosing to live. Yeah. And if I knew about naltrexone, I would have done it. So that's what I would promote. I would promote harm reduction. And if harm reduction for you is abstinence, that's great. Right. But that's not my one thing that I would promote now that AA had us promoting, right? That abstinence is the goal. And that if you drink after 3 years, 1 or 2 nights or a month or whatever, then you're back on day one as if none of that experience mattered or counted. That's bananas.
That's crazy.
And so for me, the goal is to enjoy your life. And if there's an addiction that's blocking you from that, then yeah, work that out however best so that you can enjoy life in whatever way, knowing that life is brutal constantly. And like, so how can you also find some joy in it?
Yeah.
And so that's how I look at it now.
Yeah.
So yeah, burn the stigma of abstinence is the goal. Like, it can be, but it's not better than harm reduction.
No.
And harm reduction isn't better than abstinence.
Yeah.
It's individual.
No, totally. It really is. I don't know why I just thought of this, because it really doesn't have to do with what we're saying. But somebody had commented on my thing a while back, and because I had made a TikTok that said something like, AA like affected my life more negatively. Like 12 step affected my life more negatively than heroin did, right? And I still stand by that because the heroin, once that was gone, it was gone, right? Like once I'm not shooting dope, like I'm not shooting dope. But all these years later, this 12 step stuff is still fucking me up. Like this stuff is still, and like they were so mad that I said that. Like they got so upset about it. They're like, I can't believe you would say something like that. But it's like, but it's true because, like I said, like the drugs, like once the drugs are done, they're done. But then you have this head full of dogma and rhetoric and like, am I gonna die? Is it all this stuff. And you can be deprogrammed or think that you're all deprogrammed, and then something will pop up and you're like, oh shit, like there's still some shit I got to deal with over here. And it's this process that once you leave, that's just the beginning, like what kind of like when they say when you get sober, that's just the beginning. When you leave the program, that's just the beginning.
Because the only thing you change is everything, because you have to surrender your entire life, identity, everything to the cult. And so once you leave the cult, it's unpacking all
Yeah.
that. Like when I took it on benzos, I was told they're not addictive. I was told all this lies basically by my psychiatrist. And so I was on them for 2.5 years, day and night, 2 a day, as prescribed by him. But getting off them, it took me about 2.5 years, I would say, to get off them, meaning I was on other meds the first year of my sobriety to, what were they called? I forget what they were called. I have a whole benzo playlist on YouTube. 2 other meds that are non-addictive that you don't feel, but that help my brain get back into homeostasis after the benzos, because they're very hard to get off of for a lot of us.
Yeah.
And so like 40% of people from benzos have moderate to severe issues getting off. And I was in that category. It took me 2.5 years to stop having panic attacks after I got off benzos. So it took me the same amount of time that I was on them to get off them. So did that treatment work? It was a huge cost. The exit cost of getting off that medication was huge for me. So now I'm like, oh my God, I am 5 years and 3 months out of AA now, but I am still getting AA out of my head. I was there 10 years. Is it going to take me 10 years to get that cult religion out of my head? It
I
might,
hope not.
but I got the motivation because I keep waking up to more freedom, and it's so fun to like open up to more and more. And like, so it's exciting. It's like,
Yeah.
it's this expansion, I didn't realize I was getting trapped and obedient and like losing myself in AA slowly, like that frog in boiling water. Right. But now I'm like, oh, so it's motivating because it's like, oh, I getting more and more and more free.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole wide world out here that's like you didn't think you had access to, right? Because people like us, we can't do stuff like that. People like, and I mean, there's so much more than whatever I thought that I was gonna have to be for the rest of my life. Like it's okay to have hopes and dreams and aspirations. Like it's not selfish. I don't need to dedicate all my free time to service work and being in the program. Like it's okay to work on things that I want to work on. And sorry for them, the thing I want to work on is spreading the message that, you don't have to be in 12 step for the rest of your life if you don't want to be. And so, yeah, it is. It's one of those things like you just either like you've been through it and like you get it, and like those of us who get it, and like there's just like an unspoken thing among us because we've all get it. And then if you're like actively in the program and believing that the program is saving your life, I don't think that you can get it. Like I don't expect you to get it. Like how could you get it? Like so it's just kind of is what it is at that point. But the bigger message is that like great, it should exist for the people who want it, but it should exist for the people who want it. It shouldn't be the first thing on the table. It shouldn't be the default pathway. It shouldn't be what we define all of recovery resources, all of the getting help resources. It shouldn't be the standard of what we put everything else again. Like even all these other programs that people come out with, and people come out with their own meetings and stuff, they're very similar to the program. A lot of them are still very similar to those things that we learn. And there's plenty of different ones too, but I'm just saying like it's still the center of it
Yeah.
all, and
It's what the TV shows and the movies
yeah,
mention. If they mention recovery, it's always AA.
yeah,
Well, only thing that I've seen at least.
totally, and that is what we need to move away from. Let it be an option for the people that want it, but let's get like data driven resources and like just multiple resources. Let's put them on the table and let people know that they exist, because so many people don't know they have options. And like the options are honestly like they're limitless. Like there's so many, it's like a buffet. Like there's so many different things that you can take in like any direction that you want to go. Like there's just so much more to explore. And so many people have so much freedom coming for them when they leave the program and are able to address their actual issues, because it's not that you have a spiritual malady. You know what I mean? It may be that you're neurodivergent, you may have, you know, chronic depression, you may have some unresolved trauma. Like there's just so many different things that if you're, you know, sticking around or going in and out, like there's probably something else you need to look at. And the exciting thing is that there's resources for you to look at them. And once you're able to look at them, oh, so many more things open up for you. Like there's just so much more out there for you that you don't have to keep hitting your head against the wall, like praying away these character defects, you know, like there's so much more for you. And that is what I want people to know, you know, because it is exciting. Like the more you learn, the more it's like, you know, you just want to tell everyone, or at least apparently we do. You know, you want to tell everyone. So, yeah, I'll never stop. I'll never stop.
I love it. Is there any final words you have for anybody who's just left AA and they're scared? They know they made the right decision, but they're sitting in that fear. They're, you know, maybe they're wondering if they're going to die. They're feeling that the guilt that they left and they're not going to help the newcomer because that indoctrination, and they're being shunned by people. Maybe they even left because they were thinking that life felt like it wasn't worth living. I get a lot of messages from people who are suicidal when they leave AA, and AA is kind of killing them in a way. What would you tell somebody who's in the middle of the big emotional roller coaster / mindfuck of leaving AA? If there's any parting sentence, words, or spiel.
I'd say that I know it sounds so cliche, but like it really is just the beginning. And like you have the opportunity to all of those things that you were feeling that like you just couldn't figure out why they weren't hitting, or like why it wasn't connecting, or why you just didn't feel just right or whatever. Like now you have the opportunity to like dig into those things and figure out what the hell they are, and not have to spend so much time trying to be someone that you're actually not. Like you have just unlocked this door to like be your true authentic self and like discover all of these things about yourself that aren't this like selfish, self-centered, like you're only going up from here. Like I know it feels shitty, but like there is so much outside of this shitty door. Like once you wipe the shit off the door and like find out, you know, like you'll have a shiny beautiful door, and it's gonna unlock this. And like, is everything butterflies and rainbows? Like of course not. But now when I'm having an issue, I don't think it's because I'm not spiritually fit enough, right? Like now I'm able to be like, okay, what is really going on with me? Like, is it because my period's coming? And like the freedom that comes with that is a whole nother something, because when you're really like, you know, doing your work and doing your inventory, and then something like PMS does come up, and then you do feel like you're just like, what's wrong with me? Like I've been praying, I've been meditating, I've been taking people to meetings, I just got a new sponsee, like I'm doing all the things. Like why do I feel this way? Why am I so ungrateful and so unhappy? Like what is wrong with me? And then you can be like, oh shit, it's just PMS. You know, like I know that sounds silly, but the freedom in that, from like thinking that like you're going crazy or you're not doing enough. I don't know. Like I said, I'm still a mess. Like I still mess things up all the time. I always say like, no matter how bad my day is, like it never has to end with me writing 10-step inventory, trying to find my part about, you know, what thing that I fucked up, you know, like
the microscope, living under a microscope is so stressful. The whole, my part, analyzing everything, analyzing everybody. I wish that I never was indoctrinated into that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, because I think that just always comes natural. Like I still even always look for my part, even though I don't want to. You know what I mean? Like I'll still be like, win. You know, like it's just an automatic thing, which isn't like the worst thing, but there's some things that, you know, really it wasn't because you did something, you know? Sometimes things just are what they are.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Where can people find you if they want to come vibe?
So I am at Burn the Stigma on YouTube and TikTok and Facebook. I do have a podcast called Recovery Rebellion that's also on my YouTube, but you can find it on like Spotify and Apple under Recovery Rebellion. So yeah.
I love that. And I'll link on YouTube, I'll link your YouTube below the video, and I'll link your podcast below on the podcast version of this if they want to click over and vibe.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's so fun to hang out with you and talk all the real things about the baloney that we experienced. And you know, it's really funny. As you were talking, I was thinking the new freedom and the new happiness that AA promises. As you were talking, I'm like, oh, she's describing a new freedom and a new happiness, like not in a cult way, but in a like getting rid of the cult, getting the cult out of her head way. I was like, oh, she has a new freedom and a new happiness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining this fun episode of the Sobriety Bestie podcast. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.